This is now the second part of solving quadratics. This time, so the first time we were solving them by factoring. That involves setting it equal to 0, factoring one of the sides, setting both factors, or all three or all four factors equal to 0, and then solving each factor. The second part is for solving by finding square roots, and now you're going to want to have a calculator for this part at some point, but we'll start off without that. Tomorrow's lesson will be about simplifying square roots, but for now we'll just practice with taking them. So if you recall back from the beginning, in our night's charge actually, from a little bit earlier, we talked about the inverses of various properties that we can do. So addition and subtraction are inverse operations of each other, adding and subtracting. So if you add something and want to get rid of it, you subtract it. Now, if you multiply by something and you want to get rid of it, you divide by that same thing. Well, if you square something and want to get rid of that operation or negate it, cancel it out, what you're going to do is take the square root of it. So this part is going to be based on doing each one of those things. So addition and subtraction, multiplication and division, and finally, squaring and taking square roots. Now, we solve by finding the square roots when we have something like this. Ax squared plus c equals 0. Okay, so you have an x squared term and also a constant. And no linear term, so nothing times x, just x squared and a constant. Okay, so what we're going to do is actually solve this like it was a regular linear equation. You don't need to do anything different. So pretend that this first one just said 5x minus 180. And pretend like it said that. And you needed to just solve for x. Well, the first thing we would do is add 180 to both sides. So you'd have 5x squared equals 0 plus 180, or just 180. Okay, and then, again, pretend it said 5x equals 180. Well, divide both sides by 5. And so you have x squared equals 36. Okay, well now we're stuck, because now we're to a new part. Well, again, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, squaring, and square roots. Right now we have something that's been squared and we want to get rid of it. The way you get rid of it is by taking a square root. Now, when it says x squared, the squared refers to the number that's being multiplied by itself. X squared equations, or quadratic equations, have two solutions. It may be the same number twice, that would be a double root or a double answer, or it may be like positive and negative versions of the same number, or it could be two different numbers entirely. Okay, so what we need to keep in mind though is, since we have an x squared, we're looking for two different solutions. Well, in order to get rid of the squared, you want to take the square root of both sides. When you take the square root though, you need to add in a positive square root and also a negative square root. Once for the positive answer that you could have had and once for the negative answer that you could have. And so square root of x squared cancels out, and we have x equals plus or minus, now the square root of 36, what number times itself equals 36? Well, 1 times 1 is 1, 2 times 2 is 4, 3 times 3 is 9, 4 times 4 is 16, 5 times 5 is 25, 6 times 6 is 36. So the square root of 36 is 6. So what this symbol means is that x equals 6 and also x equals negative 6. Both of those answers are valid. Both of them are absolutely correct. Let's look at the second side. 4x squared minus 25 equals 0. Starting off, add 25 to both sides. So you would have 4x squared equals 25. Next step, get rid of your 4, so divide both sides by 4. So we'll have x squared equals 25 over 4. Now there's nothing that you can do to 25 over 4 to reduce it. You could, if you divided it, you would end up with 6.25. So, and it won't reduce, there's no common factor. Now let's get rid of that squared though. Take the square root of both sides. Remember, you need a plus and minus on the right hand side. So the square root of x squared equals the positive square root and the negative square root of 25 divided by 4. So x equals positive and negative. The square root of 25 is 5, and the square root of 4 is 2. So your final answer is x equals positive 5 over 2 and x equals negative 5 over 2. Again, nothing to reduce here. You can't simplify it at all. Well, now you have some practice for solving by finding square roots. Feel free to pause the video, try to solve a little bit on your own, unpause it to check how I do it, and then pause before the second example, try to solve it on your own, and again, unpause it and see how I solve it out. But I'm going to go ahead and start. So the first thing that you want to do for this kind is not to set it equal to 0, that's for factoring, but to get the x squared by itself on one side. We're actually only one step away in this practice problem. It's already 3x squared on the right hand side. We just need to get rid of the 3 by dividing both sides by 3. So we're going to have x squared equals 4. Well, in order to get rid of the squared, take the square root of both sides, plus and minus on the right hand side. So x is going to be equal to positive and negative. What number times itself equals 4? 2 times 2 equals 4. So it's positive and negative 2. Remember, this means that x equals 2 and also x equals negative 2. Putting the two symbols together in one part, though, just makes it so we can write a shorter solution. Okay, your last one now. X squared equals, x squared minus 1/4 equals 0. Get rid of your 1/4 on both sides. So x squared equals 1/4. Now, there's nothing to divide by, so take your square root, add a positive and a negative to the right-hand side. So x equals, well, the square root of 1 is 1, and the square root of 4 is 2. So x equals plus or minus 1/2. Okay, so that's the end of the second part of this. And so go and see if you can find some of the practice problems and work on these a little bit more, or even copy the problem down onto a fresh piece of paper and see if you can work it out again. So it's not quite like trying a new one, but it should help you memorize it a little bit.